before we start going down any rabbit holes, we better record this. But yeah, so you guys have heard me talk about in the past where I like going to seminars and hearing other people talk, and I'll hear them talk about something, and I'll be like, man, I used to do that, and it used to work really well. Why did I go away from it? That's how this was on this podcast last week with Guy. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is pre-rut sequences. So, Joel, you're heading out Saturday. We start in 2 weeks. Sandy, you're not until the 10th, so you're going to be in a different category. But some of this that we talk about tonight will still work for you. So pre-rut. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of the pictures that bulls are really starting to rub velvet off now, getting a lot of hard-horn bulls. I've been hearing too a lot of bugle activity. And here's the thing you need to understand: right now at this time of year, most of the bugling that bulls are doing are location bugles. They're just trying to figure out where everybody's at. Hey, where are you at? Hey, where you're at? And so that's mostly what you're hearing is location bugles. You're not going to hear a bunch of aggressive type bugling right now. They're just wanting to know where everybody's at. Who's gone down and got cows, who's come back. So, so that's primarily what they're doing. Here in the next couple of weeks, they're still gonna, there's still some bulls that haven't even started rubbing yet. So you're still gonna next 2 weeks. By the end of the next 2 weeks, every bull should be hard horned, except for, some spikes and maybe some smaller rag horns. Definitely the younger bulls are going to start heading down to where the cows and calves are to start rounding up harems.
Okay, I got a question for you on that.
Yep.
So me and my brother-in-law, we found a herd probably about 300 of cows and calves, got a couple of spikes in there and raghorn with them, but they're right at Skyline Drive, right at the top of the mountain.
Okay.
Would say in that instance where they're already at the top, would the bulls possibly be below them?
Not necessarily. So you're gonna find cows and calves at all different elevations. Some places they're down lower and in meadows and parks, and other areas they're mid mountain. It kind of varies from area to area. A lot of them, as long as they'll follow the snow melt up the hill and get into some good grass and good feeding, and that's probably what happened there. That's why they're all the way up top. So with you going out Saturday, you're going to want to focus on that area. And I think if you're after cows or spikes and you got a herd of 300, I think the odds are in your favor.
Yeah, usually the ones that he's been seeing, the ones that I went and saw with him, they usually when the hunts start, they disperse out of that canyon real quick.
Yeah.
So I was kind of curious about that.
Nah, I would head right to that area first morning. So, and like I said, I'll cover a sequence coming up that if you do that first morning, you'll have an elk come in. So,
okay.
Mr. Jim, how you doing?
Okay. I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't have a link to your thing.
Wow.
I know. I turned my computer off.
Really?
Checked my tablet, and there was I looked at it and looked, and there was for tonight. I'm like, well, I didn't get an email. And I thought, so I put my laptop back on, and there it was.
Yeah.
Oops.
I mean, Sandy and Joel had no problem finding that link that I posted 3 minutes after it was supposed to start.
How long?
Yeah.
3 minutes after. For some reason, my post this morning didn't post. And then I jumped on there to read an email or a message that somebody had messaged about some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. And I saw a message from Sandy, no link again tonight. So I don't know. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. Well, I kept turning it off and turned it back on the Patreon page, and then I just turned the computer off and flipped it back on, and there it was.
No, it was user error for me. I think I was still asleep from the gym this morning, and I forgot to hit post before I X'd out of it. So which very well could. But dang it, I hit post on Instagram and Facebook. So, but there's no links on there. So, but anyways,
I'm not a great computer guy either. So there you go.
Apparently, I'm not either. So we're on the same page.
Does that mean for reminding you I get a free month?
You know, if I had anything to do with the Patreon, we would work something out. So why don't we table that until we make the transition over? So all right. So Jim, kind of what we were
Maybe I
talking.
get an entry for that bow.
You
The
know,
winning entry, of course.
there you go, the winning entry. Okay, yeah. I don't even see his name on the list. Oh, it's there. Trust me. So, yeah. Well,
I haven't even seen anything about the entries for that.
yeah. That's because I haven't decided. I mean, I'm still back and forth on it. So I haven't shot it anymore since it became, the neglectful stepchild. So it just sits in timeout and thinks about what it's done.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Jim, we were kind of talking about, the next couple of weeks. Sure, you've seen a lot of pictures popping up online of bulls rubbing velvet, and you have kind of a mix right now. You have some that are full hard horn, others that are in the process of rubbing velvet, others that haven't even started rubbing yet. But here over the next, 7 to 10 days, everything's going to be hard horned, and those younger bulls are going to be heading to where the cows and calves are to start gathering up their herds, and the big mature bulls are actually just going to head right to the breeding grounds, their breeding area, and they're basically just going to wait there because those dudes learned a long time ago
And they're
that
basically just no wait.
instead of going down and spending 4 or 5 days worth of energy of rounding up cows, they can just go to that breeding area, keep feeding, and wait for these younger bulls to bring cows up. And then 15, 20 minutes of running his butt off. And then they have 13, 20 cows pretty dang easy. So, also too, hearing a lot of reports of bugles. Thing to keep in mind right now, this time of year, pretty much the only bugles they're doing is just location bugles. They're just trying to find out where everybody's at. So as they're moving into breeding, as they're, younger bulls are moving to the cows, they're doing location bugles, trying to locate everybody and get a tabs on everybody. So, all right. So pre-rut calling sequences. So remember in pre-rut, it's gathering up cows, it's getting to the breeding area, and it's basically just waiting for cows to come in estrus. You can have older cows come into estrus, but primarily it's just kind of figuring out where everybody is, getting the herds ready together, and just kind of waiting a little bit. You can do a little bit of the breeding sequence, which we will do from time to time. I focus kind of more on that inviting cow routine, which you guys have heard me talk quite a bit about lately, and also gave you kind of the wrinkle on that. Now, so as I was talking about last week, I recorded a podcast with Guy from Western Contours, and we went, a lot of times on podcasts, you hear people talk about sounds, this sound, that sound, what it means, and that kind of stuff. Guy and I wanted to do a little bit something different. So we went into sequences, and we talked about some of our favorite sequences. And it was funny because he brought up his favorite sequence, and I kind of started chuckling because it's a sequence that I used to do quite a bit. And for some reason, I've gone away from it. I haven't done it. I've done what's entailed in this in other sequences, but I've never isolated these specific sounds in their own sequence by themselves. It is something that anybody can do. It's very, very easy, and it calls in any elk. You can call in cows, you can call in spikes, you can call in raghorns, you can call in mature bulls. It's a very good tactic for early season because it doesn't have any confrontational or aggressive or threatening type sounds in it. Now, this is why, in fact, first morning out, this is what I'm focusing on. Most people are going to go out on opening weekend. So Joel, for you this Saturday, most people are going to go out and they're going to do the same things. They're going to walk around and they're going to locate bugle, and they're going to do a few cow calls, and they're going to do more locate bugles, and that's it. They're not going to do anything different. If they do get a response, they're probably going to turn right around and try to challenge that bull, which really the chance of them being in that mindset, maybe if you're in a high bull to cow ratio and you got a lot of bulls competing. Most areas where you have a smaller bull to cow ratio, there's not going to be that competition, and really they're going to be more in that cow gathering mode. So this one is low audible. You guys have heard me talk about low audible elk sounds before.
Mhm.
Okay. So this routine has 3 parts: raking, huffs, and grunts. That's it. So now the key to this one is before you do any raking, you want to introduce some sort of elk sound. You can do that by stepping on a stick and crack that stick as you're approaching the tree, and you can just simply, do some huffs and then start raking. And then you rake for a little bit. You're not raking real aggressively. It's just kind of just moving the head up and down. Take a little break, do a few huffs, maybe a couple of grunts, and then wait. The tricky thing with this sequence is you don't a lot of times get verbal responses back that are high pitched. What's funny about this is this low audible routine gets low audible responses back, meaning you will get bulls that will huff back, you will get bulls that will grunt back, and snapping of twigs. You really need to be aware of your surroundings on this, because a lot of times, they're just coming in and you may not even hear that huff until that dude's 60 yards away, depending on how thick, maybe even 50. So it's one of those things where all of a sudden they're on you. And it's like, holy crap, where did he come from? I did not hear anything. And so that's why it's critical that you do this sound sequence with the huffs and the grunts and the raking for minute and a half, minute, and then take a break. But in between your breaks, you're really scanning. But remember too, you want to have your movements slow while you're scanning, because you don't want to move too fast and you don't want to move too much, because remember, something's really coming in. And you can move around in a little area and do this on different trees. You can do this on bushes, just doing that raking sound with a stick on bushes. And it just gives that appearance early on that there's just kind of a bull there. He's just kind of, moving around. He's raking on things. And here's why this is successful, especially early in the year. Cows and bulls are wanting to come together to form herds for breeding purposes. Cows are curious by this sound because they want to know what bull is making those sounds. The reason it's effective with other bulls too is because they're curious to know who's huffing and grunting and raking. Younger bulls want to go see if it's somebody about their size, if it's a more dominant bull. Who is this? Herd bulls, same thing. Is this a dominant bull that's moved into my area that I'm going to have to run out, and he's rubbing these trees and using his orbital gland to put his scent in my area? And so it causes a lot of curiosity on these elk, and that's why it's really, really effective. The cool thing about this too is with you doing this, it separates you from everybody else that's out there, that they're all kind of doing the same thing. They're doing, the covering ground, the locating, because they know elk really aren't that vocal first part of the season, but they want to go find that bugle. They want to go find that bull in that mindset that they watched in that YouTube video. Dang it, it happened. They did it. I can do it. I'm going to go cover ground. So you're primarily doing this as a blind calling setup. So you're going to do it in areas where you have fresh sign. If you can smell elk very strong, it's a great place to do it. Set up and start doing it. You'll be amazed at how far that sound actually does travel. And like I said, sometimes it's tricky because they have better ears than we do, that they can hear the sound farther out than what we can. And The frustrating part of this is you do get caught unprepared a lot, which can be a good thing or a bad thing because it sharpens the senses, but it also pisses you off a little bit because you will get caught unprepared several times. But it is one of those that is really effective. And I think funny thing is that first morning I'm actually going to be the shooter and Bryce is going to be the caller. And Bryce has never really done this routine before. So we'll see how well he does. We'll see how well I can coach him, and we'll see how his patience level is. Sometimes Bryce does not have the best patience. So sometimes he is like a 6-year-old that has ADHD that is not taking his medication for the day, or ADD, I guess. So very, very short attention span sometime. So,
So if you're in an area that doesn't have a very high elk count,
yep.
would you advise not doing this just from the likelihood of being caught?
No, you just got to stay more aware. You just got to be aware of your surroundings and really scanning really hard. It is a high effective sequence. So, nice thing is if they do come in and they catch you and you're able to just freeze, as long as they don't really see you or smell you, they may just lose interest and then just go out, especially if you're in the shadow and you stand really, really still and there's something breaking up your silhouette, you'll be okay. Because you can kind of let them go off a little bit and then you can kind of do this routine again and you have an idea of where that elk's coming from, and then you can focus on that area. The other thing about this is it does end up giving you a lot of frontal shots, especially if you're doing this alone. So frontal shots, and we haven't really talked much about frontal shots. I actually really like frontal shots. Because basically you're taking out every major organ. You're taking out heart, lungs, liver, I mean, everything. But for me, I have certain parameters. For me to take the frontal shot, it has to be 20 yards or less. No brush between me and that elk has to be relaxed. He cannot be on guard, and it has to be either level or slightly downhill. If all those boxes are not checked, I will not take the shot. So you do have a volleyball size opening right there on the front. So at 20 yards, volleyball size opening. Now you'll hear a lot of people follow the dark brown of the mane down and shoot right where the dark brown and the tan meet. That's too low. You want to be about 2 to 3 inches up from that dark brown tan line up into the dark brown. If you actually think when the elk is broadside and you see where that elbow is, if you take that line from the elbow and draw it straight into the front, you'll see where that volleyball is. It's a very, very highly effective, and it's fast. I have not had an elk go more than 30 yards on a frontal shot, and I've taken several of them. Your arrows will bury up to the nock, and actually if you shoot and have enough momentum, your arrow can actually go all the way through. So there's a few downfalls to it, but it is one of the higher percentage call-ins. And in fact, after I talked to Guy, I went down into the storage bin and out in the garage and pulled it down and went back through some old journals and just kind of flipping through and came across this sequence quite a few times in those journals with encounters and call-ins and how they went. And that's what actually reminded me of you will get caught unprepared a lot, because there's a few entries of that I didn't write the choice words, but I wrote the emblems that you see a lot. So
how long should you do the sequence for? I mean,
so I'm going to, generally I do it for a minute, minute and a half. Sometimes I may stretch it to 2 minutes and then, wait.
I mean, how long in that same area?
Right. and then I'm going to wait 3-4 minutes, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to stay in that area for an hour. That hour, you've heard me talk on blind calling, hour.
That's what
That
I
to
think.
me,
After last year, I got patients. But bull light calling was 45 minutes. So,
yeah, no. So I mean, I've played with the different time lengths, and it seems like to me hour is about right because it gives anything within hearing distance plenty of time to get over there. Just too many times if I've tried to gone shorter, I always get busted. So if you're in that 50-minute to an hour range, you're going to be okay. Now, we've talked about this before with blind calling. If nothing comes in, I'm going to pay attention to the sign and I'm going to follow the fresh tracks. And I'm going to,
Okay. On that note, with the blind calling with the time,
uh-huh.
what about say that you kind of know where their bedroom is the first part of the season,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of know where they head to the bed
Okay.
about 8 in the morning?
Yep.
Could you kind of focus in that area then?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you know exactly where they're heading to bed, and there's a way that you can get in there where your thermals aren't going to blow down to them and get set up close to that bedding area and start doing this, absolutely. So,
Okay.
and that's that case there, depending on what time you get there. And if you have that time clock, okay, you know about when they're going to get there. So say they get there at 9:30. If you get there at 8, you know, we have about an hour and a half before they actually get up here. So, and that's going to be the thing that, you know, then you can set up and go, okay, do we want to sit here for 20-30 minutes and just listen and then break into the routine? Or do we want to do the routine for an hour and a half or so? My preference is I will normally get up on those and I will sit far enough to the side and listen, because I want to make sure that as they're getting closer, I'm getting closer, and I can really make sure that those thermals, because if you start too early, they will loop underneath you and catch your wind and you'll never see them.
Okay.
So that's why it's kind of nice if you can stay far enough to the side to where you can hear or see that travel corridor that's coming in to that bedding area, and then stage your movement over close by it as they're getting close to. Because as they're getting closer, that means they're getting more up on your elevation, which means now those thermals blowing up or down isn't a problem. So,
Okay.
and we'll do that quite a bit with the big bench that we like to hunt. So, in fact, yeah, that first morning where it's just Bryce and I in camp, we're hitting the motorcycle trail because I was successful in rock, paper, scissors, best 2 out of 3, which determined I was the shooter and I get to pick where we're going. I knew exactly if he won where we were going. It's never a question with Bryce on opening morning if he's a shooter where he's going. It's always the bench. It's the bench with the wallows. It's a given. You don't even have to. If he wins, I don't even ask him where do you want to go. And in fact, a lot of times he'll be like, "Are you going to ask me where we're going?" Same place we have for so many freaking years. When you're the shooter the first morning, do we really have to ask? Well, maybe I changed my mind. No, you didn't. You never will, because you're a grumpy, codgety old bastard and you're stuck in your ways, and that's just where you're going to go. So,
Yep.
oh, I'm sure he says the same thing about me. But at least this one on opening morning is going to be a new area, and that's only because we have the e-bikes now.
Well, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, actually, and in fact, he's already excited about that. He's told me he's not gonna pump the pedals one time going to this spot. He's just gonna push the throttle down, and he's just gonna take the lazy man's way in. He goes, "What? It's a 25-minute ride. It's 2 miles, 2.5 miles. Why do I need to pedal? You told me yourself when you rode in there that you still had 87% of battery." I'm like, "Yeah, what's your point?" "I'm going to use the throttle and maybe I'll have 75 by the time I get there, which gives me plenty to get back out and back out's downhill." So I can't argue with his logic.
No.
So, and plus legs will be nice and fresh. And so, but I told him too, we may not actually go to the point where I'm thinking about parking the bikes, because that's what's kind of cool about this is we're going to be able to hear bugles and we'll be able to adjust and go from there. So, okay. Any questions on raking huffs and grunts? No. Outstanding. Okay.
No.
So, two other sequences that I talked about in that podcast, and I've touched on them briefly in past episodes. One of them is a two-bull routine. The two-bull routine obviously requires two people. So because you are bugling back and forth, and obviously, but ahead of time, you've established who's the caller and who's the shooter. The shooter, once you actually get elk responding, that shooter is going to go quiet and slip into the slingshot, basically, and get ready for the shot. The nice thing about the two-bull is the two-bull actually creates excitement, and you can force nearby bulls to sound off and answer because they think they're missing out. Because most of the time, there's just one person that's bugling. And, especially early in the year, you have some of these other bulls that are just kind of hanging out there like, nope, not going to answer you. Don't want you to know where I'm at because then you'll come over here. You'll be in my space. I don't want company. I ain't going to do it. But with two of you, you can kind of portray an answer. So you don't start answering right off the get-go. So you have the designated caller that is doing the normal thing, which is trying to locate. And you're not standing right next to each other when you do this. You're gonna get 25, 35 yards apart from each other. And then after you do a round of locates, which we've talked about that, where I do a couple of soft mews, then I do just a nice location bugle, then I do a location bugle with chuckles. I'll wait a little bit, no answer, I'll do that again. If no answer, then the third time, when I do the bugles with the chuckles, he's going to cut me off. He's going to cut me off about the tail end of my bugle and bugle over the top of me. And then we're going to kind of go back and forth a couple of times, and then we quiet it down and pause for a little bit. And then we kind of start bugling back and forth again. And we'll take turns bugling over each other. And so say we start at 35 yards apart, we kind of may move towards each other a little bit. And so what it kind of portrays is a bull that actually responded to the first one, and now they're kind of coming together to maybe spar a little bit. And it's almost like somebody on the playground yelling fight. As soon as everybody heard fight, what happened? Everybody just ran over there because they wanted to see what was going on. This same thing kind of happens in the elk world too, especially early in the season, because since they are establishing their pecking order and they are establishing who the dominant bull is, they want to come over and see what's going on. I will typically do the two bull not on opening weekend. Opening weekend, my focus is going to be on the raking huffs and grunts or the inviting cow routine. Second weekend is where I'll break out the two bull. So because at that point, you have bulls that have rounded up cows, they're kind of up in the breeding area, and you kind of start going with a little bit of competition for the cows at that point. And you get some of the larger bulls that are coming down to compete with those little guys for their herds. This is why the two bull is effective, because those two bulls that are kind of squaring off and bugling at each other, you get that little raghorn that went down and picked up 12 cows. Man, that little 5-point thinks he's king for the day. He's got 12 cows. He is hot stuff. And if there's other bulls in his area that are kind of, and we're not getting over the top, we're not getting really deep growls. We're not getting these big impressive bugles. We're kind of keeping it kind of in the middle of the road. Not real deep, not real big, not a lot of volume, just kind of going back and forth. And it kind of portrays that it's two kind of raghorns that are kind of squaring off. They're not really sure. There's still a little bit of timidness, but there's also a little bit of cockiness there. And you can get that sucker to jump right in the middle of this. Not always, because there is times that as soon as he hears bugling in his areas, man, he'll start grabbing his cows and just leaving that area. But if you have other bulls around that don't have any cows with them, they're going to be really interested in what's going on, because they may think that one of you has cows, and they may be able to come down and whoop the butt on one of those bulls and take the cows. You know, kick the butt of one, intimidate the other, and snag the cows and go. It's kind of a fun routine to go back and forth. It's nothing that's really scripted. You both just kind of play off each other, and that's what makes it a lot of fun. Okay, any questions on two bulls? This is all straightforward and easy, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just getting the head swimming, going, holy crap, there's 15 different sequences, and which one do I want to focus on?
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, third and final one we're going to talk about tonight. Excited herd. So this one is great because, again, you need at least two people. Sometimes, you know, Bryson, Brandon, and I will be together, and there's three of us, and we'll form a triangle and do this. So whenever a herd gets scattered and they start coming back together, it's a lot of the inviting cow routine. It is the lost mews, the assemblies, the regathering, you know, whereas everybody, hey, come to me, I'm right here. But then once they find one or two members of their herd and they come together, it's party time, it's joyous time, it's excitement. It's, oh, I found my friends, I'm not alone, all is right in the world. And that's basically the story that you're painting with the excited herd. You're a scattered herd, so again, you're going to start at a distance apart and you're going to slowly work to each other, but you're not going to work any closer than 20 yards. And again, caller shooter slips. Now, the way we do on this, with there's three of us, we form a triangle. And basically, we always point the triangle downhill because that's where the caller is. So the two people up at the top of the triangle. So if thermals are blowing downhill, that means the point of the triangles is downhill. And the two shooters are up front and off to the side. So this almost turns into a two-shooter scenario, which actually increases the opportunities because you're covering a lot more angles and a lot more trails coming into this calling setup. But it's pretty cool on this because if there are cows in the area when you guys start doing this, especially, so you're, like I said, you're starting with the inviting cow routine, and the caller is going to initiate that. So 2 points are set up top. He's a little bit farther down lower. He starts working up a little bit doing this, and then all of a sudden, one of the others just gives a mew back. Hey, I'm right here. And then immediately, as all three of us just start going back and forth with herd talk, and it's excited herd talk. It's a lot of different sounds. And you get two or three people doing that same thing, feeding back and forth, and it creates a lot of excitement and a lot of vocalizations out. And the really cool thing about this, if you have cows in the area nearby you, within hearing distance, they will pick up on that excitement and they will get involved and they will start getting vocal and they engage on that, which man, makes it a lot of fun because now you have 2 or 3 of you that's communicating back and forth with them. And the cool thing is you can move towards them a little bit, but be careful not to be seen, and also know that there's some of them that could be working their way to you too. So, but again, it is another one that can be a lot of fun that you guys, again, it's not really scripted. It's not, you just remember the image or the story that you're wanting to paint in your head, and you guys just have fun with it. And that's the main thing right there, having fun with it. You go back and forth for a little bit, and with this one, since there's more of you, it's easier to go a couple of minutes. I mean, 2 minutes of straight calling is a long time. But if there's 3 of you or 2 of you, you can take little breaks here and there because the other one's going. And you will on this, you'll change how you hold your mouth. You'll change what you do with your hands to throw the sounds different directions. You'll also change volume because you want to give the appearance of some near, some far, but there is a group that has come back together and everybody's excited about it. Okay. Any questions on the excited herd?
No, but
No.
if a cow comes in.
What's that?
I said, no, it would be exciting if a cow comes in when you have a cow tag in your pocket.
Yeah. And that's what's neat about these pre-rut, because you have options. If you have a cow tag, the raking with the huffs and grunts is effective. If you're solo. If you have a partner, then you can go to the excited herd. But again, the huffs, raking, and grunts is pretty effective on any elk. So the 2 bull, like I said, so Joel, for you this weekend, I would say focus on the raking, huffs, and grunts.
Okay.
Or the excited herd. It depends if you're by yourself or if you've got a partner calling with you. The excited herd is pretty tough to do by yourself. In fact, I never do that if I'm hunting solo.
Yeah, I'll probably be hunting solo this weekend.
Then focus on the raking, huffs, and grunts. Focus on those low audible. And like I said, don't be afraid to snap sticks with your feet. Don't be afraid to step on sticks. So, especially if you're raking and kind of moving around the tree. So it just gives that appearance that, because when a bull walks up, he's not just sitting here raking. He's going to go here. He's going to move over on this side. He's going to move his butt over on this side. So keep that in mind, give that movement, and it's okay. If there's a little bush right there, don't swipe it with your pant leg, because the sound of the branches and the leaves on the material on the pant is completely different. But you could take your stick and you could brush that. So it gives it the appearance of something brushing that bush, and it gives movement into that setup.
Okay.
So, yeah. So see, you'll have 2 full weeks to go out and play with that before our next one. In fact, today, 17th. 24th.
Yep.
31st.
Yeah. Yeah. We will get one more in before I head to camp, because I'm heading to camp the 1st. So yeah, we'll be able to you'll be able to come on here and tell me if I'm completely full of crap or holy cow, that was the coolest calling sequence I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, I'll probably want to have Saturday and Sunday, and then next weekend I'll have my boys with me, so it'll be a little different, but we'll see how it plays out.
Well, good luck this weekend, and hopefully everything lines up and works out for you. So
What we're hoping for.
good. All right, guys. Well, that's what I got for pre-rut calling sequences tonight. So anybody have anything to add or comments, concerns?
Good luck, Joel.
You what?
Good luck, Joel.
All right, thank you.
So
We'll see what we can get done.
perfect. All right, guys. Well, we're going to call it for tonight then. Appreciate you guys coming on. Sorry again for the snafu of me not hitting post. I'll get this crap figured out one of these days. So,
Happens.
all right, guys. As always, keep calling, keep practicing. More importantly, though, have fun. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So,
Okay,
have a good
see
one,
ya.
everybody.
All right.
You. Bye.